Thank you for watching. I'm back with Emily Kane. She's House District 15 representative. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
I know you all are busy campaigning, and you have a lot of people to talk to. You're knocking on a lot of doors, right? You're out there campaigning, right? Because you're on the ballot. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So what are you hearing? I want to get a little bit this pulse of your district there. What are they saying in your district? Anything specific that's sticking out to you?
Well, you talked a little bit about bringing better employers, better jobs into our state. And I think it goes hand in hand with having a very good education system. I think that's one of the things that may be holding the larger businesses from coming to New Mexico, is the recent press about how terrible our education system is. Although I do know many families that have sent their children to Ivy League schools out of any of the public schools in our area. And let me back up, I do serve in the Albuquerque area, so the APS is the system there. They're doing a good job, but they're having some difficulties with things like class sizes and finding good teachers that want to stay. And I think we need to work hard to bring the class sizes down.
What do we do with the class sizes? We shrink them, or?
Well, there's a statutory regulation that class sizes can only be a certain amount for the age of the students.
And is it like 30 students or something?
Well, no, that's where they've been going.
Okay.
It's actually a lot fewer than that. I think for some of the grades it's as little as 24, even 22, 20 students. So we've been giving waivers for that for economic reasons, and we've also not been supplying aids to our teachers. So those two things have made it more difficult to be an effective educator. I think we're on the right track. This year we were able to fund the schools better, more money per student, and we have now implemented...
Didn't you increase the budget for education?
We did. We increased the budget quite a bit.
The fiscal year 2014, right?
We did, and then we also said class sizes need to start getting back to the statutory amount. So that should make a huge impact.
But the early childhood, you said she raised it?
The early childhood programs are not funded to the level that we would like to see. We'd like to see every 3 to 5-year-old be able to go to a school that's a public school that's funded with a real education program.
What did you guys apportion for the early childhood? Is it I think it was like 10 million or something, or did she suggest that we drop it down a little, or?
Yeah, you know, the actual details of the budget, I'm not on the education committee, so I apologize for not knowing the specific details. Yeah. But we tried really, really hard to make sure that the programs were funded to the level they had been, and I believe we succeeded in that.
We have such a high rate of high school dropouts, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we stop these youngsters from dropping out? I know there is a lot of studies there where you have to intervene in an early, like we said, early education.
Yeah.
Aside from that, do you think that the state needs to be involved? Do you think the private sector needs to be involved in it? Mm-hmm. Foundations, how do we stop the issue that we have in New Mexico? It's
all of the above. And really what you've talked about a number of different ways to engage students. I think we need to remember that not every student learns in the same manner. And there are a lot of great, I would call them experimental, but they're very well established now, charter schools that have different ways of teaching, and we're getting great results. Sometimes you need to think outside the box a little bit about education. Some students learn very well in a large group setting just by reading and listening to the teacher. Other students really need to have their hands on. I work with a lot of people in the fire department mm-hmm. who are very much kinetic learners, okay. And so a lot of them had difficulty in the classroom. So creating classrooms that addresses kinetic learners and auditory learners and all different kinds of learning, using the computer technology that we have, and also looking for programs that will prepare children to do work and getting them involved right away in high school, all those things. And you talked about private sector being involved. I think they could play a really big part.
What do they do?
Well, in some
I don't mean to pin you down on that, but what is it that you feel that they could do?
Well, they can do things like set up actual learning facilities that resemble the kinds of work that the kids can learn to do. And, you know, like having a real lab that's got all the equipment so that you could really learn how to perform experiments, for example. And in science, technology, engineering, and math, those are the kinds of fields where we really need to up the ante a bit and get our kids better trained. The Valley High School has a wonderful shop facility, and I've been in there and I've talked to students that are participating in their program. Programs like that have a big impact, and they really get the students excited.
Speaking of, we mentioned technology earlier during the conversation. Do you feel there was some talks about free internet for the whole state. Now, it sounds outlandish when you talk about how you give free internet to the whole state.
Yeah, not really.
But there is talks. Do you think that that could materialize at some point? Because there is some cities, like you look at Calgary, Alberta, free internet for everyone. Everything is online now.
Yes.
The kids are having difficult time. They're having to go to McDonald's to study. They're having to go. Do you think that that would improve education in some form?
Absolutely, because you bring up a good point. The information is there, and the way we access information now is definitely through the web.
Why do you think we've been slow with the technology aspect of it? Why as a state, because we know that this is a hindrance, right? So why do we not act proactive in as far as, do you think it's just the will is not there, the drive is not there?
There's a lot of infrastructure that has to go into that.
Correct.
And so those are the kinds of programs that take a statewide approach. And you know, in the legislature, we tend to look at the state as little parcels of our own interest. So to get everyone together to cooperate on a statewide initiative, it takes a big movement. But it's a great idea, and it's something that its time will come.
Do you think a company like Google came in and said, okay, we'll give you free internet, but we want X, Y, and Z incentives? Do you think the legislators should consider something like that?
I think we definitely should. We would welcome an opportunity to have those discussions.
Not that I'm saying, but remember they were talking about giving it to Farmington or someone, they were free internet, and Farmington was saying, well, we could change the name to Google or something, something to that effect. I know we always have these talks, and some of these larger corporations have a way of kind of testing it to see what the reaction is.
Sure.
Right now, I think we are beyond being tested. I think we need some real danger, because we're losing all these students to, once they drop out, a lot of them, I don't know what the statistics are, but they never return. They don't graduate after that. And without high school education, they are unable to, even with a college, 4-year college, listening to the president, 4-year college is nothing anymore.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's not amounting to very much.
Yeah, it doesn't get you prepared for those kinds of jobs that you want your children to get.
Correct, yeah. Aside from that, do you feel that education, I know it is tied into the economy and it has something to do with invigorating the economy. Do you see any other aspects of education that you think would be helpful?
Well, sure. We used to have a program in high school where kids would be exposed to healthcare professions. We actually had a mentorship program where kids would come and learn about becoming paramedics and EMTs. And those things have fallen by the way with budget cuts. Those are the kinds of programs that I think in partnership with some of our post-secondary institutions, we could bring those back and we could start emphasizing the importance of those choices.
You mentioned healthcare. See, no, I always catch these words and I try to go on. You're on the healthcare committee, right? One of the committees?
Yes,
that you're
Health
on?
Government and Indian Affairs is one of my committees during the legislature.
What are your thoughts on the current healthcare, the transition that we're doing to our National Affordable Care Act? Any thoughts on that as far as how we're transitioning? I know the exchange and all that.
Well, what I'm understanding is our exchange is underutilized at the moment. And if we could get the people who would be eligible to be signed up with the exchange, we would have more jobs for people and we'd have more coverage, more federal money coming to help pay for their health care. I did introduce a piece of legislation to try to get people that were our responsibility, people that were in custody and in jail and needed to go to the hospital for ongoing medical problems, and people who are eligible, to get them signed up to be Medicaid recipients. And the interest in that was to save our state money and get them the care they needed. And then they would also be, an unintended consequence, but it would also be enrolled. So when they were released, they would also be eligible for that. Another good idea that I have is to start doing some what I would call outreach programs. We have probably 20% of the population with some chronic health illnesses, and they are seen at the emergency rooms quite frequently.
Even right now?
Yes.
So there's no program for them as far as, and you're working on that?
Well, I'm talking about a concept that came out because of Medicaid, of getting people who are back and forth in the emergency room some outreach health care and creating a new job for people to do that.
So this is something that you're working on
Yes.
currently? It sounds pretty good. Well, let's talk a little more on the healthcare when we come back.
Sounds
We'll
great.
take a short break. We'll come
Okay,
back.
thank you.
We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.